The Chicago Bulls today completed a trade for sending Lonzo Ball to the Cleveland Cavaliers, leaving many people to wonder what is next for the Chicago Bulls, where according to Casey Johnson, there's been some chatter around Ayo Dosunmu and Trey Jones could come back. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the impact of Lonzo Ball's trade. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, hosted by Haize, your number one spot for all things Chicago Bulls.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. Real quick nightly episode. So Casey Johnson released a couple of things since the Lonzo Ball trade that I do want to talk about. I didn't want to leave till yesterday. Till tomorrow. So I figured we can go ahead and discuss them tonight. One thing that Casey Johnson said after the Lonzo Ball trade is that the Bulls are still active on the trade market, and he's hearing a lot of chatter around Ayo Dosunmu. That has led a lot of Bulls fans to immediately think, oh my God, Ayo Dosunmu is the next to be traded, when I won't say that that's necessarily true, right? Now, one thing, when you pair in what we heard at the trade deadline, we heard at the trade deadline that Ayo Dosunmu was getting more trade calls than Coby White, and that the Bulls were turning those trade calls down. And so I think naturally in this offseason, teams that are calling on Chicago Bulls trades are going to be calling more about Ayo Dosunmu. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Bulls are looking to shop him. It doesn't mean that they will move him. It doesn't mean that they won't either. But it does make some sense that there is more talk around Ayo Dosunmu. One, less of a contract to match on than Coby White, for example. Two, he is a two-way player, meaning offense and defense. He brings both those things to the court. And then three, his contract extension going through unrestricted free agency is probably going to be considerably less than what Coby White is looking for. So those three things all could pair into why there's more chatter around Ayo Dosunmu's name in trade calls and conversations than Coby White or any other player, right? So, Lonzo's gone. P. Will, we already know. There's not going to be a lot of teams interested in P. Will without attaching another asset. Nikola Vucevic is old. Teams are going to be looking at other centers that they can acquire first, and then may circle back to Nikola Vucevic if he's even moved before the trade deadline. And then Coby White, there's going to be less calls on Coby White, mainly because they know that the Bulls absolutely are going to have to go through unrestricted free agency if they even want to keep him, which teams are going to try to convince themselves that's going to give them a route to try to get Coby White more naturally. So the Ayo thing, don't let it worry you guys too much. Things do happen fast in the NBA, so if it does happen, it could happen very fast. But I think that the word that Casey Johnson used is chatter. I think he used that intentionally, right? We've heard Casey Johnson talk about trades and the Bulls shopping, the Bulls being open to trade, and those are the wording he uses. Using chatter seems like it was a intentional word being used there. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Bulls are shopping Ayo Dosunmu, and I think that that's a big difference there, right? So we'll see what the future holds for Ayo. Ayo is going to be an interesting case because, yeah, he is going to hold a lot of value, and if the Bulls get to the point to where they're starting to value picks more than anything else, Ayo's probably the player that they will move. Now, so far, it has not seemed like AK is valued picks, so I'm not saying that that's necessarily the thing, but I do think if the Bulls get to the point where they are shifting and focusing more on future draft assets, Ayo's kind of naturally the name that you would hear more being open to being moved than anything else. I just think that kind of makes some sense there if that's what it ends up being. So listen out on the Ayo thing. We'll see. You guys know if news drops, I drop here. And as long as until any updates happen, I will be the one to be dropping those updates. If it happens, we'll get an episode out quickly shortly then after. But I do think it is understandable for people to be a little bit nervous on what that can mean for Ayo Dosunmu, and we shall see what happens when it comes down to it. So, but flipping on that, one of the things I did touch on a little bit in the Lonzo Ball live stream to announce that his trade is that this does open up the door for the Bulls to keep Trey Jones. And Casey Johnson said as much after the trade as well. The Bulls have about $56 million beneath the first tax apron where they're hard capped at. So the Bulls have considerable spending money. The thing always with keeping Trey was A, Lonzo was still here, B, the roster spot thing, which the Bulls have 2 roster spots open. And so now there is a more clear path to keeping Trey Jones. But I do want to put this here. You're already going to get close to $30 million for Josh Giddey. Do the Chicago Bulls want to spend potentially $45 million on just the point guard position this offseason? That's a question there. And that's a question that we shall see, right? So I just think that that's something that you have to look out. If the Bulls are looking to keep Trey Jones, and keep in mind, the Bulls have basically an exclusive negotiating window with him until Monday, where the free agency officially opens at 6 p.m. I think is when it officially opens. If the Bulls really do intend to keep Trey Jones, I do think that that's a good window for them to try to get something done. I think they have to get the Josh Giddey deal done first, which is their first priority, and then they can look to pivot at that point and then locking up their backup point guard. Now, I don't think if Trey does resign here, it's going to be like a 4-year deal or anything like that, or maybe a 2-year deal. But that could be what they love Trey Jones. Casey Johnson said the coaching staff really fell in love with Trey Jones here. He gets along with the guys. We saw that. He had a really good chemistry, not only with Josh Giddey and Kobe, both on the court and off the court. I think when you're trying to change a culture, that stuff matters some in that. So I think that's what you're looking at when it comes down to it. So Ayo Dosunmu, we'll see. Trey Jones is now more of a possibility than he was before to stay here. The Bulls do have the salary cap and the roster spots to try to keep him, and also the need now, right? With Isaac Okoro basically playing only forward. Yes, you have Ayo Dosunmu who can play the guard or forward, but having Trey Jones, it opens up a path for Trey Jones to be your clear backup point guard on this team. And so if that ends up being the case, like it's somebody already familiar with their system, already somebody who's shown he can play with Josh Giddey or with Kobe White. And so I think that there's a more clear path to be done with that. So we'll see what happens with that one. I would love to see Trey Jones end up staying in the Chicago Bulls uniform. I think he performed really nicely for this Bulls team last year. And so that's there. One other thing that I do want to touch on is that I do think that this is all but done for Jonathan Kuminga trade talks. I think with the combination of Noah Essengay, us re-signing him, and then now trading for Isaac Okoro, who's played basically over the last 3 years of his career solely small forward and power forward, I think now our forward rotation is kind of set, right? You have Kevin Huerter, who's still going to compete for the starting small forward. I do think Isaac Okoro is going to try to compete for that too, but you have Kevin Huerter, Isaac Okoro, Modest Buzelis, Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry, Patrick Williams is still going to be in there as well, and Noah Essengay. That's 7 players competing for 2 forward spots. Now, some of those players can play multiple positions. Dalen can play guard or forward. Kevin Huerter can play guard or forward. So you have some flexibility there, but I think that sets the forward rotation. Unless the Bulls are sending out 1 or 2 of those players in the deal, then maybe things can change, right? So I think that we're starting to see the Bulls, the roster formation kind of be there. And I know a lot of people are asking, what about the center? Haize, what about the center? We got to get Nikola Vucevic out of here. I'm going to tell y'all now, I think that is becoming more and more likely that Vooch is going to be here at least at the start of the season. That was something I already kind of warned you guys about, that regardless of all the trade talk and chatter, it's still more likely that Vooch was going to stay a member of the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls may try to find something around the trade deadline or during the season. And I think that's still the most likely scenario. And I don't know if we see a drastic change at the center position, to be 100% honest with you guys. But, we'll see how that ends up working out. Maybe it's something that we don't expect. But we shall see overall what comes. But I think the Bulls, and Mark Eversley kind of talked about this in his press conference after the first round of the draft. The Bulls found themselves with a rotation of players that they liked. And that went 15-5. Right now, it was the end of the season. You want to see how much of that is true. But I do think the Bulls are invested, especially because it means no long-term money really given out to any of these guys, that you're going to return most of that lineup and see what it is. So I think you're going to see Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, maybe now Trey Jones, all stay on this team. I think you're going to see Nikola Vucevic stay on this team. I think you're going to see a lot of that rotation stay the same, plus Noah Essengay, and with Isaac Okoro now. And the Bulls really try to take a look at what that can do before they make more trades at the trade deadline. The Bulls are shaped up to be in a really good position to be active at the trade deadline with all the expiring contracts that they have It doesn't mean that they will. With AK, we know we can never assume that AK is going to take advantage of that, but the Bulls are in that position now. So we shall see what happens when it comes down to all of that. But I think that that's just the way that things look like they're shaping up right now. So we'll see how that's going to go for the Chicago Bulls. We shall see. But overall, don't worry about it when it comes down to it. We'll see how that works out. I think people are too critical of the trade, although I understand everything can be viewed as a negative when you hate the front office. You're absolutely right on that one. Absolutely right. And like I've said many times before, is that it's up to the front office to earn that faith back from the fan base. When AK first took over here, fans almost thought AK could do no wrong. And so that's slowly been lost over time. So you got to earn that back. And we'll see if he can. P.Will and Vooch going to get traded before the season or after Ayo ain't going nowhere. Listen, I get what you're saying in that, but you can't guarantee. Like, it's harder to trade pieces that don't have value. Like, so many Bulls fans are like, well, we got to trade this bad player before we trade good. Do you want a good trade or not? If you want a good trade, that means typically you're going to have to trade a player with value. And Patrick Williams has almost no value now. You got to attach an asset to get value there. And Vooch, I think Vooch is going to have more value than some people give it credit for because he's better than that, than people make him out to be. But I think there are so many, like DeAndre Ayton's out there. Robert Williams is out there. That's just from 2 teams. Like, there are a lot of centers that could be available out there on the market. And I guess we got to see how that plays out, whether in favor or not for the Bulls and Nikola Vucevic. Billy prefers guys with little experience over rookies, in my opinion, is why we're seeing the lack of picks. However, if the roster opens up more spots, maybe Billy is forced to play rookies in 26. And like this is another thing. Billy Donovan plays rookies. Ayo Dosunmu played as a rookie. Patrick Williams played as a rookie. Julian Phillips was on pace to play 70 games as a rookie before he got hurt. Malice Buzelis played as a rookie. This whole narrative that Billy Donovan doesn't play rookies, he doesn't play them a lot of minutes to start off the season, but to say that he doesn't play rookies is false. The only rookie he did not play at all really was Dalen Terry, and we know how raw Dalen Terry was. Marco Simonovic just was not good. So this whole narrative of Billy Donovan doesn't play rookies is false. Ayo played double-digit minutes from the start of his rookie season. Patrick Williams was starting from the start of his rookie season. Modest Buzelis, while not playing double-digit minutes, was getting into the game almost at the start of his season, and then he increased. They already talked about it. They had a plan there. This whole narrative that Billy Donovan doesn't play rookies at all is just false. Now, we can talk about how much he plays those guys early on. That's a different thing. Noah Essengay is probably not going to play a lot before December, January. After that, he may open up a little bit more depending on how he deals with those moves. But this whole thing of Billy doesn't play rookies at all, we got to stop that. That's a narrative thing that's just not proven by fact. It's just not proven by fact. So again, I'm here to talk about the facts of things, not just the narrative around things. But it is what it is. Trey's an excellent backup. Well, that's not that type of Trey. Trey, that's not how our Trey spells his name. Is just Tre. That type of Trey is Trey Jones, Trey Young, who we don't want on this team. So there you go on that one. Good. Getting Kuminga and playing him would have been a bad move. Yeah, I don't think the Kuminga thing's happening, which I'm not mad at. Like I said, I could see the taking the chance on a young player with that has some experience like AK likes to do. But the Kuminga thing I never really thought was like going to completely work for the Chicago Bulls, but we should see. Haize, do you think other GMs across the league that they never have to give AK back any draft picks? It seemed like an obvious pattern that he loses every season. Not getting draft picks doesn't mean you lost the trade. Let's stop that too. Not getting draft picks back does not mean that you lost the trade. Let's be clear here. Lonzo Ball is coming back from 3 years out of basketball, and he had a season where a season ended with another separate injury. The Bulls should have taken the Memphis trade at the trade deadline for Marcus Smart and the 18th overall pick. Once Lonzo, who has a career of getting hurt, it's not just the knee. You weren't going to get a draft pick back for that. If you were, it was going to be some seconds, maybe protected seconds. So we got to stop with that, thinking that you lost the trade. Like, look at it in the reality of what it is. Like, you weren't going to get a draft pick for Lonzo Ball. 2026 free agents could be like 2000 free agents where we get nothing. Could be, and I think he's shaping up to have flexibility in 2020. I don't think it's just, keep in mind, having cap space doesn't just mean free agents. It means being able to absorb salary. It means being able to go after a player that may be disgruntled. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Cap space isn't just for free agents, right? So I think that they are focusing on having cap space in 26, but it doesn't mean just to make a run at free agents. You have to have roster spots as well open for these guys. So that's why I'm saying it's if you force him with more rookies, then he has to play them. Oh, no, I understand that for sure. Haize, do you think other GMs across the league? No, I just read that. Why are you leaving the same damn comment multiple times, brother? Steve says Billy plays rooks. He may not start them off the rip, but he plays them nonetheless. Exactly. Have we seen two rookies often on the court at the same time? Yeah, but why would you see two rookies on the court at the same time? First of all, most teams don't have two rookies. You have one first round pick, you have a second round pick. The Bulls haven't even, this is the first year the Bulls have had a first round pick and a second round pick in almost 3 years. So when are you going to see two rookies on the like, that's not a barrier to do. Like, most teams don't have two rookies. It's very rare for a team to have two rookies. So yeah, you haven't seen two rookies on the court at the same time because you typically don't have two rookies. You don't have that. Ayo Okoro and a smart center will lock down teams nicely. Could be, definitely. And don't let Modest take a step up defensively. Don't let Noah Essengay be more ready defensively. Just saying. So we'll see. We shall see. See, and this is another thing that's stupid. You can't say what AK asked for unless you're on we don't know what AK asked for. We don't know. But again, you weren't going to get picked back for Lonzo, not in this situation. Now, he could have, for all we know, he could have asked for a pick in the Caruso trade, and they said, hey, yeah, no. And then he was like, oh, well, we're getting a 22-year-old point guard. We can't say what AK asked for. We don't know what AK asked for. And let's be clear, AK hasn't made that many trades. People acting now like AK's made a ton of trades and didn't get picks back. We didn't make any trades for almost 3 years. And then we made the Caruso trade. We didn't get one back for. We made the Zach LaVine trade. We did get our own first-round pick back in that one, and we got 2 second-round picks. And now we made this trade. Like, come on. But anyway, that's it for me for today. I appreciate you guys. I just wanted to come and tune in with those trade rumors around. We'll still have the daily episode tomorrow, so stay locked in and in tune with us there. You guys can follow us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. Like to end everything on Go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.